Now at 5, a miles-long convoy passes through the area en route to our nation's capital, protesting COVID mandates.
Russia and Ukraine hold crisis talks as the fighting rages on. I'm Natalie Brand in Washington with the latest international efforts to help Ukraine and the signs that economic sanctions are taking a toll on Russia.
And we check out a unique technology to help detect rare diseases.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Convoy rolled through the area today en route to Washington, D.C. This is KOAM News at 5. The miles-long group of trucks, RVs, vans, and other vehicles is called the People's Convoy. Left California 1 week ago, heading to Washington, calling for an end to the COVID national emergency that the group says led to overreaching mandates.
Well, I think it's been going on long enough, and the state of emergency, the mandates, everybody's already back to normal life, so it's time that Washington sees that as well.
Convoy expects to arrive in our nation's capital on March 5th. People gathered along overpasses along the interstate to show their support for the convoy. This is not the correct video, but we can tell you some waved flags and handmade signs. One supporter said their goal is to raise awareness of what they see as government overreach in imposing pandemic-related mandates. One protester told us, quote, "It's our God-given right to do with our bodies as we please." New York City plans to end both the school mask mandate and vaccine mandate for indoor dining and entertainment 1 week from today, as long as COVID numbers continue to fall. The state of New York will drop its mask requirements for schools on Wednesday. On Capitol Hill, House leaders say masks will be optional at President Biden's State of the Union address tomorrow. The rollbacks follow the CDC's decision Friday to loosen mask-wearing guidelines for most Americans as COVID cases continue to drop across the nation. Hospitalizations have fallen by 70%, suggesting the worst of the Omicron surge is over. A Southwest Missouri woman is dead from an early morning car crash. It happened on Lawrence County Road 1110, a mile west of Miller. 50-year-old Lori Reed of Miller, Missouri, was a passenger in a car that left the road and overturned a little before 2 this morning. She was pronounced dead 90 minutes later. The driver was in serious condition. Checking in with Nick Kelly now for a first look at the weather.
This has been a pretty good way to wrap up the month of February, Dow, the last day of February 2022. Even though we had to deal with quite a bit of cloud cover, we kept things dry and temperatures certainly mild, with at the very least lower to middle 60s this afternoon. Nothing on the radar network despite some cloud cover passing on through, but this is not threatening cloud cover. It's just due to a weak upper level wave passing nearby, but not much else to speak of. With a quick look around the lower 48, certainly nothing coming our way, that's for sure. We've already started to see numbers drop back into lower 60s across much of the regions, but mid-upper 60s still prevalent in our far western counties. But eventually, we're all going to fall through the 50s, 40s, down mainly into the upper 30s later on tonight. We're going to kick off March with this mild stretch continuing down. We'll take a look at that in our next chance for storms here in a bit.
See you then. Russia and Ukraine held their first talks today as the conflict between both countries entered a 5th day. Ukraine says its military defense has been strong, causing Russia to suffer heavy losses. The sanctions the U.S. and its Western allies have placed on Russia also appear to be taking a toll. Reporter Natalie Brand has the latest on the crisis in Ukraine.
After 5 hours of talks, Russian and Ukrainian delegations agreed to resume negotiations in the near future, but the fighting still rages on. A senior defense official says Russian forces could attempt to encircle Ukraine's capital of Kyiv in the coming days, as average citizens join the country's military to fight to defend itself. President Zelensky has applied for immediate membership into the European Union.
Russia has decided to turn its back to peace.
During a rare emergency assembly session at the United Nations, representatives for the EU and other world leaders addressed Russia's growing aggression, including the Kremlin's decision to put its nuclear weapons on high alert.
The mere idea of a nuclear conflict is simply inconceivable.
The Pentagon says it has yet to see any specific movements that could be associated with Russian President Vladimir Putin's nuclear threat.
We believe it's as unnecessary as it is escalatory, but we're reviewing and analyzing that.
Here on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are receiving a classified briefing on the crisis as the Biden administration asks Congress for billions of dollars in defense and humanitarian assistance for Ukraine.
Meanwhile, unprecedented economic consequences against Russia continue to pile up. Monday, the Biden administration imposed additional sanctions targeting Russia's central bank. And this weekend, the U.S. and allies kicked most Russian banks out of SWIFT, an international bank messaging system that makes global transactions easier. The Russian ruble plunged 30% as people there line up to try and get their money from Russian banks. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
President Biden is set to highlight Russia's invasion of Ukraine during his first State of the Union address tomorrow night. Today, FIFA and the UEFA suspended Russians' national teams and clubs from all competition until further notice. The mass exodus of people, mostly women and children, from Ukraine into neighboring countries shows no sign of slowing down. The UN now estimates 500,000 people have fled their homes. Some people have been traveling for days with only what they can carry, but they're being met with open arms and volunteers as they cross the borders, providing food and other assistance. Up next, the new technology using artificial intelligence to help diagnose rare diseases, and the foods to help you get a good night's sleep. Those stories coming up in Health Watch.
At LongJohnSilvers.com, you can order online and sell